Cold morning winds blew through the metal streets of Core-7, a crowded alien city filled with bright neon lights and tall glass towers. People walked fast, machines hummed, and strange vehicles floated in the air. But in the middle of all this noise walked a tired alien woman named Lyra, holding the small hand of her daughter Miri. Lyra's eyes were red from crying in the night. Her clothes were old and patched. She tried her best to look strong, but her steps were slow. Miri walked quietly beside her, clutching a tiny broken toy. The child did not complain, even though her stomach growled from hunger. They had been walking since sunrise. Lyra had visited 6 shops already. 6 shops had refused her. She stopped in front of the 7th shop, took a deep breath, and forced a small smile for her daughter. "It's okay, Miri," she whispered. "Maybe this shop will give Mama work." Miri nodded, her big blue eyes full of innocent hope, but deep inside, Lyra knew the truth. This city did not want her. They did not want single mothers, especially one like her, poor, alone, with no family name or status still. She pushed open the door. A bell rang as she entered a small tool shop filled with metal sparks and noisy machines. The alien shopkeeper looked at her just once, and his face twisted in annoyance. "What do you want?" he said in a sharp voice. "I'm looking for a job," Lyra said softly. "I can clean, repair small things, carry boxes, anything." Before she could finish, the shopkeeper waved his hand. No work here. He didn't ask about her skills. He didn't ask her name. He didn't even look at Miri hiding behind her. He simply turned away. Lyra tried again. "Please, I can work hard. I learn fast." "My daughter, not my problem," the shopkeeper snapped. "Get out." Lyra froze for a moment, hurt filling her chest like sharp needles, but she didn't argue. She never argued. She left quietly, pulling Miri back into the street. Outside, Miri tugged her sleeve. "Why won't they give you work, Mama?" Lyra forced a smile. "It's okay, my little star. They don't know us yet." But her heart whispered a cruel truth. Or maybe they know us too well. The story of Lyra had spread far in this city. An abandoned wife, a single mother, a woman who once worked in a factory until she was fired for being too slow, even though she had been fast and smart. But no one cared about facts. People liked stories more than truth. The sun was high now. Her feet hurt. Her stomach felt empty. Her hope was fading. Still, she walked. Miri looked up again and asked in a soft voice, "Mama, will we eat today?" Lyra's smile trembled. "Yes, Miri, we will, I promise you." But she had no idea how that she only had enough money for one small meal. After that, she did not know what would happen. As they walked, crowds of aliens stared at them. Some whispered, some turned away. Some laughed at Lyra's clothes. Others looked at Miri with pity, as if the child was a burden. Lyra kept her head down and moved forward. By noon, she had asked at 3 more shops. All of them refused. At one shop, the manager didn't even speak. He simply pointed at the sign. Nitrogen monoxide children. Nitrogen monoxide single mothers. Lyra felt something break inside her. But she couldn't let Miri see her fall apart. She squeezed her daughter's hand and kept walking. Finally, exhausted, Lyra sat on a bench in a quiet alley. Miri leaned against her, sleepy. "Mama, don't be sad," the child whispered. "You're the strongest person I know." Tears filled Lyra's eyes, but she blinked them away. She took a deep breath. She had one last street to try. After that, she didn't know where else to go. She stood up, lifted Miri into her arms, and turned the corner and stopped. There, at the end of the street, was a strange sight, a workshop. But not like the alien shop she had seen. This one had human writing on the sign, a symbol of Earth tools. A bright glow of welding sparks inside. A human owned this place. Lyra froze. Her pulse quickened. Everyone in the city warned her. Humans were dangerous. Humans were unpredictable. Humans didn't trust aliens, and yet, humans were also known for one strange thing. They gave chances when no one else would. Lyra swallowed hard. What if he rejected her too? What if he shouted at her? What if he was cruel? But then she remembered Miri's question, "Will we eat today?" She had to try. Slowly, carefully, she walked toward the workshop. As she came closer, she heard the sound of metal, saw glowing sparks, and felt warm heat from inside. She stepped to the door. Miri whispered, "Mama, is it safe?" Lyra's voice shook. "I don't know, but we must try." She pushed open the door. A bell chimed softly. Inside, a man looked up, a tall human with tired eyes, strong arms, and a face marked with grease. He paused his work when he saw Lyra and little Miri standing in the doorway. For the first time that day, someone didn't look away. The human wiped his hands, stepped forward, and said, "Hello, can I help you?" Lyra's voice trembled. I need a job, anything you can offer." The human studied her for a moment, not with judgment, not with anger, but with curiosity, and something she hadn't seen in a long time. When Lyra stepped inside the human workshop, her heartbeat was loud enough that she could almost hear it. The warm air smelled of metal and smoke. Sparks flew from a machine the human had been fixing. The room was full of strange human tools, heavy wrenches, glowing cutters, and machines that hummed like sleeping animals. The human finally stood up straight, wiping sweat from his brow. His name was Evan, though Lyra didn't know this yet. His eyes were sharp, but not unkind. His hands looked strong but gentle, the hands of someone who built things instead of breaking them. He glanced at Lyra, then at the small girl clinging to her dress. "You look tired," he said softly. Lyra froze. No one had spoken to her like that in years, not with concern, not with softness. Aliens usually ordered her or ignored her. His tone confused her more than anything. I'm looking for work," she whispered. Evan didn't respond right away. He didn't shout, didn't reject her, didn't point at the door. Instead, he walked closer, his boots tapping against the metal floor, and crouched slightly to look at Miri. "What's your name, little one?" Miri hid behind Lyra, shy and scared, but she whispered, "Miri." He smiled gently. "Nice name." Then he looked at Lyra again. "And yours?" "Lyra," she said, holding her breath. Evan nodded. "All right, Lyra, what kind of work are you looking for?" She hesitated. "Anything. Cleaning, carrying boxes, even small repairs. I learn fast." Suddenly, Lyra felt the same fear she felt at every shop. She waited for him to say, "No." Like everyone else, her hands trembled. Her eyes stared at the floor. Evan could see the fear. He could hear the weakness in her voice. But there was also something else: determination, a quiet fire, a strength buried deep. That caught his attention. He walked to a table, picked up a small metal disc, and placed it in front of Lyra. "Can you tell me what's wrong with this?" Lyra blinked. It was not a normal question. He was testing her. She took the disc with shaky hands, studied it, and whispered, "The heat coil is reversed?" Evan's eyebrows rose. "Correct." Lyra looked shocked at herself. She did not even realize she had spoken so fast. For years she had hidden her skill. She pretended to be slow because aliens expected her to be slow. Evan turned around and picked up another tool, a damaged scanner with loose wires. "How about this?" Lyra swallowed. "The sensor is broken, and the power line is too old. If you replace it, the scanner will work again." Evan stared at her for a long moment. This wasn't someone who learned fast. This was someone who had talent. "So, you've worked with machines before?" he asked. Lyra looked down. "A long time ago, before everything went wrong." She didn't want to talk about her past, her husband leaving, her losing her job, the city using her as an example of what failure looked like. Evan nodded slowly. He could see the pain in her eyes. He didn't push for details. Instead, he said something she never expected. "Do you want the job?" Lyra froze completely, her breath caught in her throat. Miri's eyes widened. The world seemed to stop for a moment. After a long silence, Lyra whispered, "You want to hire me?" Evan shrugged casually. "You clearly know what you're doing, and you're not afraid to work. That's enough for me." Lyra's legs felt weak. She almost fell from shock. She held Miri close, tears filling her eyes, not from sadness, but from the sudden, unbelievable relief of being seen as a person again. Evan continued, "I'll pay you daily. You start now. If you do well, you stay. If you need time for your daughter, tell me. I'll adjust." Lyra covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back tears. "A no one ever. I'm not no one," Evan said with a small smile. "I'm human." For the first time, Lyra understood what others meant when they said humans were strange. They were unpredictable, yes, but they were also capable of kindness that felt like a miracle. Lyra's first moments of hope. Evan walked her around the workshop, showing her tools and machines. It was warm, bright, and full of life, so different from the cold streets outside. He gave her a simple task, sorting metal pieces by size. It was easy. It was honest work. It was work she had begged for all morning. Miri sat on a small bench nearby, watching her mother with wide, happy eyes. Every now and then, Evan glanced at the little girl, as if making sure she felt safe. Too, Lyra noticed and felt something strange in her chest, gratitude, respect, and hope she had buried long ago. "This place," Lyra whispered quietly to herself. "Maybe this place will save us." But not everyone was happy outside. 2 alien workers passed by the human workshop. They noticed Lyra inside. One whispered, "Is that the single mother?" The other hissed, "Working with a human? She must be desperate." "Disgusting," the first said. "Humans don't understand our rules. He'll regret hiring her." They walked away, their voices low but full of poison. Lyra didn't hear them. Evan didn't hear them, but the city had noticed. Rumors were about to spread, and not all of them would be kind. Lyra began her work that same morning. She moved slowly at first, afraid of doing something wrong. Her hands shook when she touched tools, worried Evan would change his mind and send her away. Like everyone else, but Evan didn't rush her. He didn't shout. He didn't stand over her with judgment. He simply said, "Take your time, work steady, that's enough." Those words alone felt like sunlight after years of darkness. Lyra's hidden talent begins to show. Evan gave her a small pile of damaged metal parts to sort. Easy work. But as she touched each piece, something old awakened inside her. She remembered her past life, her real life. Before everything collapsed, she remembered working in a large engineering hall. She remembered fixing engines twice her size. She remembered being proud of her skill. Her fingers moved faster. Her mind became sharper. Soon, she wasn't just sorting. She was repairing tiny faults automatically. She twisted wires into place, straightened bent frames, and fixed joints without thinking. When Evan walked over to check her progress, he froze. "Lyra," he said slowly, "I didn't ask you to fix them, but these repairs are perfect." Lyra looked down shyly. "I'm sorry. I saw the problem. My hands moved on their own." "Don't apologize," Evan said. "This is talent." Her cheeks warmed. For years, aliens had called her useless, slow, weak. But a human had seen what no one else did. She wasn't weak at all. Miri's first real smile while Lyra worked. Young Miri sat in a corner of the shop, holding an old metal toy that had long stopped working. Evan noticed her staring at the glowing sparks with fascination. He walked over and sat on the floor beside her. "What's that you got there?" Mary lifted the toy. "It used to move. But it's broken now." Evan gently took it. "Let me see." Within a minute, he repaired the tiny mechanism and handed it back. The toy lit up glowing blue and walking in a small circle. Mary gasped and laughed, the sound bright and innocent. It was a laugh Lyra had not heard in months. Lyra looked over, eyes filling with emotion. She tried hard to hide. Evan smiled. "There, now it works." Mary hugged the toy tightly. "Thank you, Mr. Human," Evan chuckled. "Call me Evan." For Lyra, this small moment meant everything. Someone finally made her daughter smile again. Whispers began outside the shop, but not everyone saw this as something beautiful. Every alien that walked past the workshop window slowed down when they saw an alien mother working with a human. Some pointed, some whispered, some frowned. Why is she working with him? She's taking advantage of him. Humans don't know our rules. She failed like she always does. Rumors spread through the district like smoke from a fire. But Lyra and Evan kept working, unaware of the storm forming outside. Strange incident late in the afternoon. Evan asked Lyra to help him with a larger machina, heavy cutting tool that had stopped working months ago. Evan tried for weeks to fix it. Nothing worked. He handed her a light tool and said, "If you can understand this one, I'll be impressed." Lyra knelt beside the machine. Her eyes followed the wires. Her fingers traced the metal. Her mind worked quickly, as if reading a language she had not spoken in years. Then she whispered, "The problem is hidden inside the secondary power tunnel." Evan blinked. "What? That's impossible to see from outside." But Lyra already reached her hand inside the narrow gap, something Evan's larger hands couldn't do. She pulled out a tiny burnt circuit. Evan stared in shock. "How did you know that was there?" Lyra looked confused at her own answer. "I don't know. I just felt it." Evan let out a whistle. "You're more than talented, Lyra. You're special." No one had ever called her special. She didn't know how to respond. Her eyes softened, and for a moment she forgot the years of rejection. She forgot all the shops that refused her. Forgotten pain began to melt just a little. The beginning of trust. By the end of the day, Lyra had fixed more than any worker Evan had ever hired. Her quiet skill impressed him deeply. He had worked with dozens of aliens. None learned or adapted as fast as she did. When Lyra finished cleaning her hands, she said softly, "Thank you for trusting me today." Evan shook his head. "No, Lyra, thank you for proving everyone else wrong." She felt something warm rise in her chest, a feeling she thought she had lost forever. Hope. But just as the day felt perfect, a sudden loud noise echoed outside. A loud thud against the workshop door. Lyra jumped in fear. Evan rushed forward and opened the door. There was no one outside. Just a small metal plate lying on the ground. Evan picked it up. Someone had scratched words onto it with sharp claws. "She does not belong here." Lyra's heart dropped. Evan's jaw tightened. Someone was watching. Someone was angry. And this was only the beginning. Evan locked the workshop door after picking up the metal plate. The scratched message, "She does not belong here," echoed in his mind like a warning bell. Lyra held Mary tightly, fear rising in her chest. She had seen messages like this before, on her home world, when her life first fell apart, when people had turned against her for reasons she never understood. But this time, something was different. She wasn't alone. Evan placed the plate on his desk and said calmly, "Don't worry. Whoever did this won't stop us." But Lyra wasn't sure. The city had eyes. The city had rules. And today, the city had noticed her. Rumors grow like shadows. By the next morning, the entire street seemed to be watching her. Aliens pretended to look at items in their shop windows but kept glancing toward the human workshop, a group of delivery workers whispered together, shaking their heads. One of them muttered loudly enough for Lyra to hear, "Humans are fools. They trust the wrong people." Another added, "She failed everywhere else. Why does he think he can fix her?" Lyra lowered her eyes and tightened her grip on Miri's hand. Her heart pounded with embarrassment and fear. She wanted to disappear, but when she entered the workshop, Evan greeted her with the same steady voice. "You ready for another day?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, I'll do my best." Evan smiled. "That's all I want." The incident with the alien supervisor later that afternoon. An alien supervisor from the Tool District. Foreman Torque, a large creature with thick gray skin, burst into Evan's workshop without knocking. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud. He glared at Lyra first, then at Evan. "What is this?" Torque growled. "You hired her? The whole district is talking." Evan didn't blink. "Yes, she works here." Torque crossed his arms. "She has a record. She's been fired from every job. She brings trouble." Lyra stood frozen, her hands trembling at her sides. She hated this part, this humiliation, this past following her like a curse. Evan stepped forward, blocking Torque's view of her. "Her past is not your business," he said firmly. "My shop, my rules." Torque narrowed his eyes. "Humans do not understand. If she fails here, the district will blame you. And humans already have a bad reputation." Evan's fists tightened. "I'll handle it." Torque leaned in closer. "You should fire her before something bad happens." Then he turned and stormed out, leaving the workshop quiet and tense. Lyra felt tears burning at the edge of her eyes. I'm causing problems," she whispered. "Maybe I should leave." Evan shook his head instantly. "No, you're staying. I don't care what they say, but no buts." His voice was steady. "I trust you. Let the others talk." No one had ever defended her like this. Ever. Spreading poison by evening, the rumors had turned into stories. Some said Lyra was trying to trick a human. Some said her daughter carried a dangerous sickness. Others whispered that Lyra was cursed, and any shop that hired her would burn. These lies slithered through the city like snakes, and soon, someone took action. The threat outside the door when Evan closed the workshop for the night. He stepped outside first to check the street. What he saw made his stomach tighten. His door had been vandalized with black paint. Large letters, sharp strokes, angry words, "Fire the mother. Get rid of the child. Human, stay away." Lyra gasped when she saw it. She covered Miri's eyes quickly. Evan clenched his jaw. "Cowards," Lyra's voice shook. "This is my fault. I should never have come here. I'll only bring danger to you." Evan turned to her sharply. "No, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. You asked for work. That's all. The problem is them, not you. But they hate me." "Then let them hate," Evan said. "I don't care." Lyra looked at him with wide, shining eyes. She had never heard someone speak like that. Never for her. A quiet promise. Evan helped her clean the paint. They worked in silence for a while, the dim streetlights flickering above them. Miri stood nearby, holding her repaired toy, watching the adults with worried eyes. Finally, Lyra whispered, "Why are you helping us so much?" Evan looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Because kindness shouldn't be rare," he said quietly. "Because good people deserve a chance. Because you remind me of someone I once knew." Lyra's breath caught. She wanted to ask who, but Evan turned away before she could, locking the workshop door. "Go home," he said gently. "Rest. Come back tomorrow." Lyra nodded, still shaken, but warmed by his words. As she walked away with Miri, she felt fear, but also a small glowing light inside her. Hope, real hope. But she did not know something important. Someone was watching from the shadows. Someone who didn't want her there. Someone who had bigger plans. And tonight, that someone decided the warnings were not enough. Asterisk. The next few days passed quietly, but the silence was dangerous. The rumors had not stopped, they had simply gone underground, spreading in darker corners of the district. Lyra tried to ignore the whispers. She worked harder than ever. Evan praised her daily. Miri played happily in the workshop. For the first time in years, Lyra felt like her life was slowly rebuilding. But peace in Core 7 never lasted long. The morning the air changed on the 5th day. Lyra arrived early. The sunrise was weak and pale, and the usual noise of the streets sounded different, tense, nervous, like the city was holding its breath. Evan noticed it too. "Feels strange today," he muttered. "Like trouble is close." Lyra tried to smile, but she sensed it as well. The air smelled of metal smoke and something else. Something sharp. Meanwhile, across the street stood a large alien factory, the metal processing plant. It was old, rusted, and run by careless supervisors. Many workers had complained about unsafe equipment. Today, that danger woke up. The first explosion, a sudden boom, shook the ground. The workshop windows trembled. Tools fell from shelves. Miri screamed, dropping her toy. Evan rushed to the window. Across the street, a tower of black smoke rose from the factory. Flames burst from its side. Alarms screamed through the district. "Oh no," Lyra whispered. The factory. Before she could finish, a second explosion tore through the building, sending fire into the sky like a dragon's breath. Workers ran out, shouting in panic. Some fell. Some pushed others aside. Everyone tried to escape the spreading fire, but the fire didn't stop. It leaped across the metal pipelines, crawled along the walls, and raced straight toward Evan's workshop. Evan's face turned pale. "We need to get out, now." Trapped in the workshop, the flames reached the building faster than expected. A loud crash shook the workshop as burning debris fell from above, blocking the main exit. Miri cried as smoke filled the room. Evan tried to open the back door, but it was stuck. Something heavy had fallen outside. "We're trapped," he said, coughing. Lyra covered Miri's face with her scarf. Her own lungs burned, but she shouted, "We need air. Open the roof vent." Evan climbed on a bench and punched the vent open, letting fresh air flow inside. It helped, but not for long. The fire outside grew louder. Hot metal creaked. Something crashed against the walls. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Evan looked around desperately. There has to be a way. Then he froze, not in fear, but in anger, because through this smoke, words appeared on the workshop wall, painted earlier, but now glowing orange. From the flames, "This is what you get for helping her." Lyra's heart dropped. This wasn't an accident. Someone had started this fire. Someone wanted her gone. Evan's decision. The heat became unbearable. Evan coughed violently and stumbled. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Evan, we can still find a way." "No," he said, staring fiercely toward the blocked door. "I'm getting you two out, even if I have to break this place apart with my hands." He ran to the back door, rammed it with his shoulder, and again metal bending, loosening. "Evan, stop!" Lyra cried. "You'll hurt yourself." But he didn't stop. One final hit, crunch. The door frame gave way just enough to push through. "Take Miri," he said, pulling them toward the opening. The fire was now inside the workshop, eating tools, crawling across shelves, making everything glow red. Lyra held Miri close, whispering comfort even though her voice trembled with terror. Evan pushed them through the narrow gap first. "Go. I'll follow right behind." Lyra struggled out, dragging Miri into the alley outside. Smoke poured from the roof behind them. The heat was so strong it felt like the air itself was burning. She turned back. "Evan, come now." But Evan wasn't. Behind her, the back door had slammed shut again from the shifting debris. He was still inside. "Evan's escape," Lyra screamed. "Evan!" She tried to push the door open, but it wouldn't move. The metal burned her palms. She cried in pain but kept pushing Dot inside. Evan could be heard coughing, stumbling. "Mama, he's in there," Miri cried. "Help him." Lyra's eyes flooded with tears. "I'm trying." Just when the flames exploded through the workshop windows, Evan appeared, crashing through the back door with sheer force. His arm was burned. His shirt smoldered. His breath came in ragged gasps, but he was alive. Lyra ran to him. "You're hurt." Evan shook his head. "Doesn't matter. You two are safe." He guided them away from the burning building. But as they reached a clear area, Lyra saw something horrifying. The aliens who had watched the fire from a distance were not shocked. Some were smiling. Some nodded approvingly. Some turned away as if justice had been done. They didn't care that a child was almost burned alive. They didn't care Evan risked his life. They only cared that Lyra had been inside. Lyra felt cold even with fire behind her. Someone wanted her gone so badly. They were willing to burn down an entire building. "The fire changes everything," Evan, breathing heavily, said. "Lyra, this wasn't an accident." She nodded slowly. "I know." "Someone targeted you." "No," she said softly, looking up at him. "They targeted us." For the first time she realized something. Evan wasn't just her employer. He wasn't just someone who helped her. He was now a part of her fight, and the city had declared war. The fire had finally been controlled. Emergency crews flooded the district, spraying foam on the burning metal, cooling down the pipelines, and clearing debris. But long after the flames died, the fear in Lyra's heart continued to burn as fiercely as the fire. Evan sat on the curb outside the destroyed workshop, coughing from smoke. His arm was bandaged, and soot covered his face. Lyra and Miri sat beside him, shaken and silent. For a long time none of them spoke. Finally, Evan broke the silence. "Lyra, someone did this on purpose, and they wanted you inside." Lyra lowered her head. "I know." Evan turned to her, confusion and frustration tightening his voice. "Why? What are they so afraid of? Why do they hate you this much? A single mistake doesn't make people burn down buildings." Lyra's hands clenched in her lap. Her breath trembled. She didn't want to tell him. She didn't want him to see the truth she had buried for years, but she owed him the truth. He had risked his life for her, and for Dot, so she looked at Evan with tired eyes and asked, "Do you really want to know?" Evan nodded. Lyra inhaled deeply, and the truth came out. Lyra's hidden past. "Before I came to Core 7, Lyra began softly. I wasn't a cleaner. I wasn't a helper. I wasn't useless." Her voice shook as she continued. "I was an engineer." Evan's eyes widened. "An engineer? A real one?" She nodded. "One of the youngest. I worked at the Stellar Core factory on my home world. I built engines and repaired machines 10 times more complex than anything in this district." Evan stared at her like she was a completely different person. "So what happened?" Lyra swallowed hard, pain rising in her throat. "My husband," she said quietly. "He was jealous, angry. He hated that I was smarter. He hated that others respected me. He hated that I didn't depend on him." Evan's jaw clenched. "One day, he sabotaged a machine I was working on. A dangerous one, and when it exploded, he blamed me for it. I was careless. The factory bosses believed him." Her voice cracked. "They fired me. Not him." Evan felt rage rising inside him. "And no one questioned it?" Lyra shook her head. "For our people, a single mother is a burden, a disgrace. When he abandoned me and Miri, they said it proved I was weak. So they pushed you out," Evan whispered. "Yes," she said. "They destroyed my reputation. Every shop in my city refused to hire me. When I tried to explain the truth, they called me a liar." Her eyes shined with tears she tried to hide. "So I left my world. I came to Core 7. I thought things would be different here. But aliens talk. News travels fast. They heard the story. And they believed it. Evan shook his head slowly, shocked by how much she had suffered alone. And the factory fire today. This wasn't about you being weak, Lyra. It was because they're afraid of your strength. Lyra blinked at him. What? Evan's voice hardened. You repaired more machines in 5 days than the entire district could in a month. You learn fast. You work fast, you think fast, and they hate that. He leaned forward. You're not a burden, Lyra. You're a threat. To the people who want to keep you small. Lyra stared at him, stunned. No one had ever said such words to her. No one had ever seen her that way. Miri crawled into her lap and hugged her tightly, whispering, Mama is the smartest. Lyra's tears finally fell. Evan's choice. Evan stood up, even though his body ached. Lyra, he said firmly. Listen. She looked up at him, afraid of what he might say. I'm rebuilding my workshop, Evan continued. And when I do, you're not coming back as a worker. Lyra froze. You're coming back as my partner. Her breath stopped. Partner? Not a helper, not a cleaner. Not someone who needed pity. A partner. Evan nodded, seeing her shock. You have skills this city doesn't understand. But I do. And I won't let anyone destroy you again. Lyra's voice was a whisper. But Evan, the district will fight you. They already hate me. Evan looked back at the burned workshop, then at her. Good, he said. Let them try. There was a fire in his eyes, not like the one that destroyed his shop, but a fire of determination, of loyalty, of someone who refused to let injustice win. Lyra felt her heart tremble. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. But danger still lurked even as they stood there, making new plans. A shadow watched them from a distance, a figure hidden under a dark hood. Someone who had followed Lyra for days. Someone furious that she survived the fire. The figure whispered into a communicator. Phase 1 failed. Prepare Phase 2. The human is protecting her, so remove the human first. The communicator clicked off. The figure disappeared into the crowd, unseen, unheard, ready for the next attack. Asterisk. The night after the fire felt held heavy and cold. The district was quiet, but not peaceful. It felt like the whole city was watching, waiting, planning its next move. Evan, Lyra, and Miri stayed inside a small shelter offered by a friend of Evan. Lyra kept waking up, thinking about the hooded figure, the threats, the fire, the hatred. Every time she opened her eyes, Miri was curled up beside her, breathing softly, trusting her completely. Lyra touched her daughter's hair and whispered, I will not run anymore. She had run all her life, from her husband, from her past, from cruel words, from broken cities, but tonight, she felt something different inside her. Strength. Not loud strength. Not angry strength. Quiet, solid, unbreakable strength. And she knew where it came from. From Evan. The next morning, Evan woke them early. We're going to the workshop, he said. Lyra nodded, knowing they had to face whatever waited outside. When they reached the site, smoke still rose from the ruins. The walls were black. The metal roof was half collapsed. The air smelled of ashes. Some aliens stood nearby, whispering again. Their words were sharp. She's cursed. She brings chaos. Why is the human still protecting her? Evan ignored them completely. He bent down, picked up a burned metal plate, and tossed it aside. We're rebuilding, he said. Simply. Lyra blinked. Evan, the whole shop is destroyed. Then we start from zero, he said. Together. The confrontation as they cleaned debris. The hooded figure approached slowly from the crowd. But this time, he didn't hide. He stepped forward, removing his hood. It was Foreman Torque, the district supervisor who had warned Evan earlier. His gray skin was covered with dark, soot-like patches. and his eyes burned with frustration. "You should have listened," Torque growled. "She ruins every place she goes." Evan stepped in front of Lyra instantly. "Torque, you crossed a line. You endangered a child." Torque's lip curled. "I only did what the district expected." Evan's jaw tightened. "You wanted her dead." Torque didn't deny it. "She's a failure human, a shame to her kind. You protect her today, she destroys you tomorrow. People like her don't change." Lyra felt a familiar pain rising inside her, the same pain she felt years ago, when her husband blamed her for his mistakes. But Evan didn't let her break. He turned to the crowd watching them. "Listen carefully," Evan said loudly. "You call her weak? She saved my machines when no one else could. She worked harder than any worker I've ever hired. She is smarter, faster, and kinder than any of you who stand here judging her." The crowd murmured. Torque shouted, "She is a disgrace." "No," Evan said sharply, "you are." The crowd fell silent. Evan continued, voice strong, "You all hate her because she is better than what you told yourselves she could be. You fear her because she doesn't fit your small, broken rules. She doesn't need your approval. She needs a chance." He turned to Lyra, his voice softening, "And she will get that chance. With me." Lyra felt tears gather in her eyes, but this time, they weren't from fear. They were from pride. Her back straightened, her eyes sharpened, her voice returned. She stepped forward and faced Torque directly. "I am not who you think I am," she said quietly but firmly. "I am an engineer. I am a mother. I am a builder. You tried to break me. You failed." The crowd whispered again, but the tone had changed. Torque stepped back, stunned by her courage. Evan looked around. "We rebuild this workshop. And anyone who wants better machines, better tools, or better repair work, you come to us." And for the first time, some aliens nodded. Some stepped forward. Some looked ashamed. Some even offered help. Torque growled angrily and disappeared into the crowd. Defeated. The rise of the workshop. Weeks passed. The workshop was rebuilt bigger and stronger. New machines, new tools, new walls, new life. And at the front door, a new sign. Evan and Lyra, engineers of KOR-7. Customers began to trust them. Work flowed in. Aliens came with broken machines and left with working ones. They talked. They shared stories. They slowly realized that Lyra wasn't a curse. She was the most skilled engineer in the district. Children brought toys for her to fix. Workers asked her for advice. Even old supervisors came quietly, pretending they were just checking, but secretly asking for help. Miri played happily around the shop, calling Evan Uncle Evan and telling everyone, "My mama is the smartest." Lyra smiled every time. And Evan? He stood beside her, proud, steady, loyal, the human who gave her a chance when no one else did. A legend is born months later. A traveler from another planet visited their workshop. He watched Lyra repair a complex engine in just minutes. He whispered, "How did you become so famous?" Lyra smiled softly. "It started with one human," she said. "He believed in me when everyone else shut their doors." The traveler nodded. "Then it is true. Humans build hope where others build walls." And so the story spread across the city, across planets, across trade routes. The story of the single mother no one wanted, and the human who saw her worth. It became a lesson, a whisper, a legend. Sometimes, the strongest people are not the ones who fight battles, but the ones who survive them. And sometimes all they need is one person who believes.